Hello guys, welcome. My name is Babatunde, and today we're going to be talking about graphically solving a system of linear equations. So these type of questions basically deal with we're just plotting points in a graph to get lines, and we're going to use those lines to gonna find to gonna we're gonna use those lines. We're gonna observe those lines. Emphasis on the observation. We're gonna observe those lines, and we're gonna get the solution based on those lines, right? So in order to get solution on the line, right? Those lines it can go two ways, right? So remember, we're gonna plot lines for this equation and this equation based on this question, right? So we're going to plot lines for these two separate equations, and then we're going to observe those lines, right? So if those lines in this graph, because we're going to plot those lines in the graph, right? So if those lines in this graph, if they meet at a point, that means the graph has one solution, right? So take for example, like the one graph is coming over here, and then the other graph goes over here, and then they meet at some point, right? So that point means it has one solution, right? But if those two lines are parallel to each other, right? They never meet, they never cross each other. That means that means there are no solutions. Sorry, there's no solution. That means the two equations are not don't have any solution, right? But if these two lines are the same, right? Imagine they're the same line, basically they're just the same thing. That means that basically means there are infinitely many solutions, right? So let's look at this. Let's take a look at this. So first, remember the first step whenever you're dealing with this problem is you want to set points for the first equation and the second equation, right? So let's set the points for this first equation. Right, so feel free to pause the video if you want, if you like, if you want to like get more clarification, you can continue watching the video. So let's set points for this first equation. This first equation says y equals minus 1 over 2x plus 2, right? So we got to set points for this, right? So it doesn't really matter what number you put. You can put any number here. It doesn't matter, right? You can put for x or the y. It doesn't really matter. But the thing is, if you put values for the x, you have to find for the y. And the same thing for the y. If you put values for the y, you have to find the respective value for the x, right? So here I'm going to work with x in this equation, right? So it doesn't really matter what value you put. You can replace it for anything, right? So let's put 0 as x in this case, right? So for when x equals 0, right? Remember, we're going to put a value in x now. So we have to solve for y, right? So when x equals 0, y will be equals to what? So we got to find what y is when x equals 0, right? So that would be y equals minus 1 over 2 times, all we do is replace x with 0 because that's what we're looking at right now, right? Times 0 plus 2, right? And so we have to do this first, right? We have to work on this first. So when we work on that, that is minus 1 over 2 times 0. I know anything times 0 is a 0, right? So that would be y equals 0 plus 2, right? So y equals 2, right? So we already got that covered, right? So the next one is, okay, so when x equals 0, y equals 2, right? So we can set another value for x again and say when x equals 2. Right, so when x equals 2, we have to find the corresponding y value, right? So let's look at that. So we're going to say y equals minus 1 over 2 times 2, and then plus 2. Just brackets, whatever. Yeah. So you can put brackets if you want. It doesn't really matter. Dot. It doesn't matter. Right. So when we do this, right, we have to work with this side first before we add the 2, right? So let's look at this. 2 is in the top side, and those are at the bottom, right? And they're the same numbers, right? So that means these numbers and this number can cancel out. So they cancel out each other, right? Because they're the same. So that will cancel out. That will be equals to minus 1, because when they cancel out, they're going to be equals to 1, right? That's basically minus 1 times 1, which is 1, right? Which is minus 1, sorry. Anything multiplied by 1 is the same number. So minus 1 times 1 will be minus 1 and plus 2. So y equals minus 1 plus 2, which is 1, right? Because minus 1 plus 2 equals 1. So when x is 2, comma y will be equals to 1, right? So we already got those values. So we already got the values for this first equation, right? So that's the first step. So the second step, the same thing we did over here, we're gonna do over here. We're also gonna find the values, the points in this second equation, right? So mind you, the reason we didn't stop at this first at this place here is because we need more than one point to plot a line, right? So if imagine we have one point in the graph, because we don't know where the line will pass, we don't know if it will be here or here, right? So it's always good to have two or more points so that we'll have an idea of where the graph passes. All right, so we already got this. All right, so feel free to pause the video and try to see if you can solve this second equation and see if you understand. But if not, just follow me as we do it. So let's look at the second one. Second one is 2x plus y equals 5, right? So mind you, you can put any value you want. You can work with x, you can work with y if you want, right? But I want to work with x the same way I worked in here, right? So let's say x equals 0. So for x equals 0, comma y equals what, right? So I just replace x with 0, right? So that'll be 2 times 0 plus y equals 5, right? So 2 times 0 equals 0, right? Anything multiplied by 0 equals 0. So that's 0 plus y equals 5. So 0 plus y equals y, right? So y equals 5. So when x is 0, y equals 5. So let's look for the for the um for the value of let's look for another value. Let's say x equals 1, right? So comma y will be equals to what? So let's look at that. So that would be 2 times 1 plus y equals 5, right? So this is 2 times 1, which is, anything multiplied by 1 is the same number. That would be 2 plus y equals 5. And so we have to subtract both sides from 2, right? Because we have 2 here and we just want this y to be alone in this side, right? So to do that, we have to remove this 2 here. And so to remove the 2, we have to subtract both sides with 2 basically, right? Because we have 2 here. So we have to remove these 2. So to do that, we just say 2 minus 2. Because whatever we do here, we have to do it here also in the other side, right? So 2 minus 2 plus y equals 5 minus 2. Right? Notice we minus 2 here, also minus 2 here. So 2 minus 2 equals 0, right? So that will be 0 plus y equals 5 minus 2, which equals 3, right? So equals 3. So 0 plus y is y, right? So y equals 3. So when x is 1, y equals 3. So we're done with the first two steps. We already got the points covered. So now all it's left to do is to plot the graph now, right? So that's what we're going to do. So let's plot the graph. So let's look at the first graph, the first equation. This is the first equation, right? We got the point, which is when x is 0, y equals 2. And when x is 2, y equals 1, right? So when x equals 0, we have to look at the graph and kind of find the point where x is 0. So x is 0 is here, right? And y is 2 is here, right? So you can look here, you can see this do. So whenever it's a vertical, that's a y-axis, and horizontal is an x-axis, right? So the the horizontal here in this case is x equals 0, which is in the middle, right? And then y, which is the vertical, is 2. So you look for points where they both meet, which is here 0 and then 2. And then we look for next x when x is 2. Here when x is 2, y is 1, right? So this is x is 2, right? But this is when x is 2 and then y is 1. This is the point. So we got that. So let's look for another one. Okay, we're done with this first equation, right? So let's look at the second equation, which is this. So when x is 0 in this one, y is 5, right? So when x is 0 here, y is 5, right? So we got that. Now second one, when x is 1, y equals 3, right? So when x is 1, y equals 3 right over here, right? So we already got the points covered, right? And remember, I said at first, like, wherever, like, okay, so it can really go three ways. So this question is just asking us to find the solution, right? based on the line we'll graph in we'll graph we're asked to find the solutions basically, right? We're gonna observe the lines and then we're gonna find the solution based on these lines, right? So remember earlier in the video, I said it can go three ways. It's either we're gonna have one solution, no solutions, or infinitely many solutions, right? So in the case where we have one solutions, the graph are gonna meet the two lines are going to meet at one point, right? And if you notice here, these two lines meet at one point, right? So that means they're going to have one solution, right? So let's put that in here. So that's our observation. We observe based on these two lines. We know that they met here, right? So we know that it's gonna have one solution. So based on that, all we're gonna do now is we're gonna copy the points where they meet, right? Which is here. So we're gonna copy the x axis and then the y axis, right? And so the x axis where it meets is 2, right? So you're gonna put the 2 first because x always comes for the y in this, right? And so we're going to trace to the y. So the x is 2 here, and then the y traces up to here, which is 1. Because this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so that just traces up to 1. Let's check that out. Yeah, correct. So yeah, thank you very much for watching the video. And I really hope it helped you whatever you're looking for. Yeah, have a nice day.